Welcome back. Grace and peace to you, friends. Hope you're having a wonderful day. And I know we're still looking at the beautiful weather, even though we had that earlier this week with the snow. So we're jumping back into Ezekiel chapter 4. And this chapter, you're going to begin to see some of the what is happening, what is going on here. And so you'll just have to bear with me and, as we're reading it together, we're going to go through and talk about what is really going on. So let's start right in with verse 1 of chapter 4. Now, son of man, take a clay tablet, put it in front of you, and draw the city of Jerusalem on it. Then lay siege to it, erect siege works against it, build a ramp up to it, set up camps against it, and put battering rams around it. Then take an iron pan, place it as an iron wall between you and the city, and turn your face toward it. It will be under siege, and you shall besiege it. This will be a sign to the house of Israel. So as a reminder, Ezekiel is getting this message from the Lord. And he's saying, here I am, and I'm going to make you a prophet instead of a priest. And he's telling Ezekiel, telling him to open his mouth, eat this scroll so that you will have the words of pronouncement of judgment upon the house of Israel. But understand that they are not going to listen. So you're going to have to do these things. You're going to have to demonstrate and show Israel what's going to happen. So that's why he's telling him to erect this, essentially a clay, some translations will say take a brick and draw on it. But I'm looking at this and it kind of reminds me of when I was younger and me and my brothers would play in our sand pit, and we'd have, we had like plastic animals and different army guys, and we would have like battle scenarios in our little play sand pit. And it's kind of funny when you begin to look at it that way. Here's this guy who actually is my age. I will be turning 30 here soon, and so Ezekiel is a man beginning his priestly work, and he is playing around in the sand essentially. And it's kind of funny when you kind of have that picture before you. But God is telling Ezekiel to demonstrate, create this picture for Israel to see, to witness, because they're not going to listen if you just tell them. So he tells him, draw on this brick or build up a clay hill for people to witness, for them to see, have the city of Jerusalem put forth in this kind of, area where there's different battering rams, there's different things going on, so people can see the doom and destruction that is coming. Jumping back into verse 4, it says, then lie on your left side and put the sin of the house of Israel upon yourself. You are to bear their sin for the number of days you lie on your side. I have assigned you the same number of days as the years of their sin. So, for 390 days, you will bear the sin of the household of Israel. Just lie on your left side. How many of us are either side sleepers or maybe toss and turn during, when you sleep? And here Ezekiel is being commanded to lie on his left side for 390 days. And we understand, as we just heard, it's in reference to the years that the house of Israel essentially was away from God. 390 days of lying on his side, and he was doing that as a way to bear the sins of Israel. Now, it's interesting to note that as he says to lie on his left side, he's facing to the north, right? He's facing to the north, to the northern kingdom of Israel. And that's important when we continue and look forward to verse 6. Lord says, after you have finished this, lie down again, this time on your right side, and bear the sin of the house of Judah. I have assigned you 40 days, a day for each year. Turn your face toward the siege of Jerusalem, and with bared arm prophesy against her. I will tie you up with ropes so that you cannot turn from one side to the other until you have finished the days of your siege. So again, Ezekiel, after finishing at 390 days, he's then being asked to lie on his other side for 40 days. And this time he's going to be tied up so that he cannot move. And I look back to, if you get, uncomfortable from laying on one side of your body, even when you sleep, even though we have, nice pillowy mattresses, we get uncomfortable. So just imagine where Ezekiel had to lay on his side consistently like this. Imagine the pain and uncomfort, the discomfort he would have been in. And he does all this to bear the sins of both the house of Judah and of Israel. Now, understand that he isn't bearing the sins as, a true atonement, but as, symbology of the coming Christ, right? There's a couple of things to take note of in these verses, and that's one of, Ezekiel being tied up is a reference to Israel really not, or Judah not being able to shake away the judgment, right? That they have to go through this. And it's a sign for us to witness and see that God is a just God. And just isn't about necessarily being nice. Just is about doing what is required, what is necessary. Justice, right? It is fairness. It is what is needed to be done. Verse 9 begins, take wheat and barley, beans and lentils, millet and spelt. Put them in a storage jar and use them to make bread for yourself. You are to eat it during the 390 days you lie on your side. Weigh out 20 shekels of food to eat each day, and eat it at set times. Also measure out a sixth of a hin of water, and drink it at set times. Eat the food as you would a barley cake. Bake it in the sight of the people, using human excrement for fuel. The Lord said, in this way the people of Israel will eat defiled food among the nations where I will drive them. So he's being commanded to survive off this interesting mixture of essentially grains, right? It says take wheat, take barley, beans and lentils, millet and spelt. Now I actually had to look up what millet and spelt is. Some of you who are more agricultural based in your knowledge will know, but millet is a type of, essentially it's in the corn family, but it's grows very similar to corn, but it's still a different type of, it's a fast growing plant basically. And spelt is in the wheat and flour family as well. So he's being commanded to make this bread that is this mixture of a whole bunch of stuff. So who knows how good this tastes. I'm encouraged to try it myself actually. But God's giving him specific instructions. I think it's interesting to note that He's commanded to take all of these types of grains, beans, lentils, and put them all together, and this is what you're going to survive off of. This is how you're going to make bread for yourself. And this is all you're going to eat for 390 days. How many of us get tired of, the same meal for a week? How many of us would struggle with that? Then he also not only has a specified, how he's supposed to store the food, what he's supposed to make his bread out of, then God's telling him, you also weigh out your food to be a specific weight. Eat it at specific times. Drink a specific set amount of water and drink it at specific times. And do it. So, we see here a message of consistency and obedience. I think it's no surprise that we see that, and why we have routine in our lives, and routine that God demands, right? We have our daily ritual sacrifice, coming to Him in prayer, and weekly gathering together as brothers and sisters on Sunday to worship. God is really looking out for the best of us, right? Because we do better when we have routine. In modern psychology, I think it's around 21 days that it takes for us to create a habit. So we need routine. And then we get to this crazy part. And I'm going to say crazy part lightly, but God commands Ezekiel to bake this sustenance, break this bread over human excrement. Some translations will say it's over his own, but either way, not exactly a great thought, not exactly something I think any of us would want to do or even be willing to do. But why does God point this out? We understand, God is the Lord is very hygienic. He created lots of laws, essentially, that we look at and we go, there's obviously hygiene that's attached to that. In Exodus, we'll see where the Israelites were commanded to walk around with there's like a shovel of some sort, that whenever they would have to have a bowel movement, they would be able to go outside of camp and do so there, have their bowel movement there, and then that way the human waste wasn't in the camp. So we very clearly see that God is putting rules in place for us that are for our own good, for our own self-interest. And he gives this decree to Ezekiel to cook his bread over human excrement, to point out that as Israel will be eating defiled food, that is what is coming for them. That is what is in store for them, because they have been so disobedient and rebellious. Picking back up in verse 14. This is Ezekiel talking. Then I said, "Not so, sovereign Lord. I have never defiled myself. From my youth until now, I have never eaten anything found dead or torn by wild animals. No unclean meat has ever entered my mouth." "Very well," he said. "I will let you bake your bread over cow manure instead of human excrement." He then said to me, "Son of man, I will cut off the supply of food in Jerusalem. The people will eat ration food in anxiety and drink rationed water in despair. For food and water will be scarce. They will be appalled at the sight of each other and will waste away because of their sin. So Ezekiel is pleading, saying, I've been righteous and lived my life in a holy manner, and I've never done anything to defile my body. Why do I have to do this now? And then the Lord offers essentially a compromise. Very well, you will, instead of cooking your bread over human waste, you will do it over cow manure. Still not great. It's still this message of defilement, right? It's still this clear command and depiction, really, not command, but clear image that what is in store for Israel is not good. I think he's giving Ezekiel a little kindness, that even though Ezekiel is not the one who is sinning, he's allowing Ezekiel this bit of kindness. And I know I'm calling it kindness, saying that he's going to be cooking his bread over, cow poop, right? That's a kindness. But God is allowing him that. But it's still necessary for him to give the essentially testimony, the witness, that Israel is going to be going through a tough time, a time of defilement, a time where they're going to be, it says the people will eat ration food in anxiety. Eating in anxiety, essentially because they don't know what's coming next. Drinking out of despair, or drinking rationed water in despair is what it says. Because food and water is going to be scarce. They're going to likely turn on each other. That is the imagery that God sets forth for Ezekiel to display. Build up Jerusalem in this clay, tile, clay brick. Show everyone what is coming. Yes, play around in the sand, but show everyone what is coming. Do this process of laying on your side for over a year because Jerusalem sinned, or Israel sinned. Lay on your right side for 40 days because Judah sinned. Eat of food, apportioned food, a strict rationed food, to the point of, I can't imagine that Ezekiel is going to be looking very healthy at the end of this year and a half. Essentially a year and a half display. So God gives this decree for Ezekiel. Live this out. Show this. Don't just tell them. Show Israel what is coming. And Ezekiel is going to do it, and he's going to have to listen to the Lord. Because the message is clear to Israel at this time. The Lord our God is a just God. So he has to act accordingly. Friends, I thank you for this time. I pray that you receive this message well and that you were able to learn from it this day. So go in peace to love and serve the Lord. Amen.